Have you ever wondered why, after 60, there are things you do with no bad intentions, yet they start to look unpleasant, even to those who love you? It's not because you're a bad person. It's because age stops hiding your habits and puts them under a harsh light. What once seemed like character now looks like stubbornness. What once passed as honesty now feels like wear and tear. And if you don't face it head-on, you end up losing respect without understanding why. Here's the contradiction. You think you're just getting by the best you can, but in reality, you're building a version of yourself that becomes hard to be around. It's like using the same old key on a lock that's already changed. You keep forcing it, and all you do is break the mechanism. The Stoics never asked you to deny the passing of time. They asked you not to lose your dignity within it, because that part is up to you. Stay until the end, because the last point is usually the most revealing, the one that changes everything once you accept it without excuses. If this is your first time here, I'm Gabriel, and today we're going to clear your mind so you can recognize 11 habits that turn unpleasant in old age, and how to correct them with firmness, without humiliating yourself and without losing who you are. Let's begin. First habit, denying your everyday decline. How many times have you said, "I'm fine," while deep down you know you're starting to struggle with small things? I'm not talking about dramatizing age or living in fear. I'm talking about that quiet refusal to accept clear signs, the fatigue that no longer fades the same way, the memory lapses, the unsteady balance, the mood that dims more quickly. And still, you hold onto a phrase like a shield, as if repeating it could change what's happening. Denying it is like living with a leak in the roof and getting used to the bucket underneath. At first you put it there, just in case, then you empty it without thinking. Eventually you don't even hear the dripping. You adapt to the noise, the dampness, the smell, and convince yourself it's normal. That's what you do with your body and your mind. You get used to the signal, turn it into background noise, and believe that means you're in control. But adapting to decline without addressing it isn't strength, it's neglect disguised as normalcy. The common belief is dangerous. If I accept that I'm changing, I become weak. That's why you get offended when someone suggests a checkup, more movement, a different diet, or asking for help. You take it as an attack on your worth. But the truth is different. What's hurt in that moment isn't your body, it's your pride. You're not defending your health, you're defending an image of yourself that can no longer stand on its own, and that makes you reactive, rigid, even aggressive. The internal cost is brutal and rarely named. Living in denial forces you to stay tense all the time. You become watchful, as if you're playing a role. Compassion irritates you, concern annoys you, help feels heavy. And deep down, what scares you isn't pain. It's the idea of dependence. So you cling to "I'm fine" like someone gripping a broken railing, and each day you spend energy propping up what's already giving way. The Stoic shift is simple, and that's why it hurts. Separate reality from judgment. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask you to control your body like an eternal machine. He asked you to govern your mind so you don't lie to yourself. Accepting change isn't surrender, it's taking the wheel back. The clearer you see what's happening, the more room you have to act with dignity. Adjust your habits, prevent a fall, treat a discomfort before it turns into a chain. Observe yourself without theatrics. You don't need a speech for anyone else. You need honesty with yourself. What sign have you been minimizing so you don't feel old? What checkup are you postponing out of pride? When you name what's happening, you stop reacting too late. And when you stop reacting too late, you regain something valuable: self-respect. Age doesn't take away your worth, but constant self-deception steals it from within. Understand this calmly. Old age doesn't humiliate you, it strips you bare. And what you do with that nakedness defines your character. You can cling to an image until it breaks, or you can hold on to your dignity with clarity and action. The first is appearance. The second is inner mastery. Second habit, letting complaining become your main way of talking. Have you ever heard yourself speak and realized that without meaning to, your first reaction is already a complaint? Someone asks how you are, and what comes out isn't an answer. It's a list of aches and annoyances. It's not always exaggerated. Sometimes it's real. But the problem begins when complaining stops being an occasional release and becomes your way of being in the world, as if your presence comes with a fixed weight. You see it in small everyday details. If it's hot, you complain about the heat. If it rains, about the rain. If people move fast, about the rush. If they move slowly, about how slow they are. If they don't call much, you say they've forgotten you. If they call often, you say they're bothering you. And conversation after conversation, your tone hardens. It's not that you say terrible things, it's that everything you say sounds worn down. In the end, people love you, but they visit less, because being around you feels like walking into a room with no air. What almost no one admits is this: complaining gives you cheap power. It places you above, like a judge. It makes you feel like you still control something, even if it's just pointing out what's wrong. While you complain, you don't expose yourself to change. You don't risk failing. You just criticize, compare, remember how it used to be. That stance becomes comfortable because it saves you from responsibility. But what's comfortable in old age is often what traps you the most. The inner mechanism is usually a mix of fear and resentment. Fear of losing relevance, fear of becoming invisible, fear that your life no longer has momentum. And resentment shows up when you feel you gave a lot and didn't receive what you expected, or when the world changed without asking your permission. So complaining works like a shield. If I criticize first, no one can hurt me. But that shield also separates you. It protects you so much that it ends up isolating you, and that's where a loneliness begins that you're quietly feeding yourself. Stoicism corrects this with an uncomfortable idea. You don't control what happens, you control the judgment you attach to it. Epictetus would say it plainly. It's not the event that disturbs you, it's what you tell yourself about the event. Constant complaining is a repeated judgment until it becomes a habit, and habit over the years becomes character. You're not describing life. You're training your mind to notice only what's missing, and that practice makes you smaller inside. Watch your next sentence before you say it, not to become fake or to pretend joy, but to regain presence. Is what I'm about to say building connection or wearing it down? Am I sharing something real, or am I releasing slow poison? Sometimes you don't want a solution, you want company. You want someone to say, I understand. That's human. But you can ask for company without turning your emotional home into a dumping ground where everyone has to carry your bad mood. Try something simple. Speak from the fact, not from condemnation. You can say, this is hard for me, without turning it into, everything is awful. You can acknowledge pain without putting on a show. You can observe reality without attacking it. That's maturity, and it's strength. Because strength isn't shouting that you're tired. It's choosing not to be ruled by that tiredness even when it's real. Constant complaining doesn't make you wiser. It makes you smaller. It shrinks your world to a list of annoyances and pushes others away, even if they don't want to leave. If you want to age with respect, start with a quiet decision. Don't turn your voice into a place where everything falls apart. Your words create the atmosphere, and your atmosphere determines who stays. The third habit is this: demanding attention as if it were owed to you. Do you really believe affection is collected by seniority, as if the years were an unpaid invoice? In old age, this habit becomes especially unpleasant because it no longer sounds like a need. It sounds like a claim. And when you approach others from a place of complaint, you're not asking for love. You're demanding emotional compliance. That's when your presence stops feeling like company and starts feeling like pressure. It's like trying to fill a glass by squeezing it tight. The harder you press, the less it holds. You call, repeat yourself, interrupt, dramatize absences, make noise to be seen. And the paradox is simple. Affection doesn't open under force, it opens with space. When someone feels they have to attend to you to avoid your anger, what they feel isn't love, it's temporary relief. Culture sold you a dangerous idea, that because of everything you gave, now it's your turn to receive without limits. And yes, you gave things. But what you give with hidden expectations isn't a gift, it's a silent contract. No one signed it, no one read it. And when old age arrives, that contract starts sending invoices in the form of small phrases. After all I did for you, you used to look for me more, I guess I don't matter anymore. The hidden cost isn't just that others pull away. The cost is that you become dependent on their response to feel alive. If they don't call, you shut down. If they don't visit, you take offense. If they don't ask your opinion, you feel useless. In that state, any silence becomes an insult. You live interpreting, suspecting, measuring affection like someone counting crumbs on a table. That makes you anxious, irritable, and steals your peace. Here, Stoicism holds up a direct mirror. The only thing under your control is your conduct, not other people's attention. Epictetus made it clear, if you place your well-being in someone else's hands, you become a slave. You can invite, not demand. You can offer presents, not debt. You can love without turning love into currency. Respect isn't claimed, it's upheld. So shift your stance. Ask yourself honestly, do you want company or do you want validation? They're not the same. Company is built through genuine interest, listening, lightness, dignity. Validation is begged for through reproaches and tests. If you feel empty today, instead of turning that emptiness into pressure on others, turn it into clarity about yourself. What part of you are you neglecting, hoping someone else will fill? Old age turns bitter when you confuse love with obligatory attention. The affection worth having shows up where there is calm, not where there are demands. And if you want to be sought out, start by not behaving like a burden. Fourth habit, neglecting your hygiene and your presence. This isn't about vanity, it's about respect. When you let yourself go, the message you send to the world is simple. I've given up. Even if you never say it out loud, it shows in the basics. Odor, clothing, hair, nails, mouth, posture. People don't judge you for being old. They judge you for abandoning yourself. And that abandonment, over the years, becomes a quiet habit that steals your dignity. It shows up almost invisibly. You stop getting ready, because what's the point? Throw on whatever you find first, postpone showers, overlook small details. Then you're surprised when the way people treat you changes. It's not cruelty, it's human perception. Your presence is a silent introduction. Before you speak, your body has already told a story, and if that story is neglect, the world responds with distance even if no one admits it. The excuse usually sounds reasonable. At my age, I don't have to impress anyone. But that's the trap. Taking care of yourself isn't about impressing. It's about maintaining an inner standard. It's telling yourself that you're still someone worthy of order, cleanliness, and care. When you let that go, you're not gaining freedom. You're losing direction. And without realizing it, neglect spreads to your mood, your home, your language, your discipline. The root isn't lack of time, it's lack of meaning. When you feel there's no longer a purpose, the body becomes a burden and the minimum starts to feel like too much. So you slowly let yourself fall. One day you skip shaving. 1 week you stop tidying up. 1 month you avoid really looking in the mirror. And the problem isn't the mirror. The problem is what you're avoiding seeing, that you're letting go of your own inner image. The philosophical shift is sober. The Stoic takes care of himself because he understands he is the guardian of what he's been given. Marcus Aurelius spoke of living according to nature, and your nature includes the body that still carries you. It's not eternal, but it's your tool. Treating it with respect won't make you younger, but it will center you. And when you are centered, you become lighter for others and steadier for yourself. So change your perspective. This isn't about expensive clothes or looking young. It's about deciding that even as time moves forward, you will not abandon yourself. Your hygiene is your minimum discipline. Your presence is your basic order. It's the kind of decision no one applauds, but it quietly sustains your self-esteem. And when your self-esteem stands firm, your character can breathe. Old age doesn't take away your worth. What takes it away is the neglect you accept as normal. If you want respect, start by looking like someone who still respects himself. Fifth habit, talking too much and listening too little. You're not failing here out of bad intention. You're failing out of anxiety. Because when you talk non-stop, often you're not communicating, you're filling a void. And in old age, this habit becomes more noticeable. You interrupt, correct, tell endless stories, jump ahead of the answer, turn every topic into your topic. In the end, what others feel isn't that you have experience. They feel there's no room for them. You see it in small moments. Someone shares something, and you're already searching for a way to link it to one of your own anecdotes. They ask you a question, and you respond with 10 minutes of background, as if you're afraid you won't be understood unless you explain everything. Meanwhile, the other person fades, not because what you're saying is useless, but because they don't feel received. The conversation stops being an exchange and becomes a monologue with a witness. The justification sounds noble. I just want to help. I'm just telling the truth. I've lived through it. I know how it is. But often that's a mask. Truth doesn't need speed. Help doesn't need to impose itself, and experience, when it's authentic, is offered calmly. If you feel urgency to speak, ask yourself what you're trying to secure, respect or control. Because talking too much is often a way of controlling the environment. The invisible root is fear of losing relevance. When you were younger, your value seemed tied to doing, producing, solving. As the years pass, you fear becoming unnecessary. So you speak to prove you're still here, still someone, still capable of contributing. That impulse is human, but when it becomes a habit, it becomes heavy. People start avoiding you not because of who you are, but because of what you drain from them. The accumulated cost is serious. You lose real information because you don't listen. You lose emotional connection because you don't create space. You lose respect because your words start to sound like noise. And hardest of all, you lose authority. Authority isn't in speaking a lot, it's in speaking precisely. A measured word carries weight, an excessive word evaporates. With age, your voice should grow clearer, not more invasive. The Stoic shift here is an ancient discipline. Govern your tongue as you govern your mind. Seneca warned that a restless mind seeks to speak in order to escape itself. Silence, on the other hand, forces you to observe, and observing restores your command. When you listen, you're not surrendering power, you're reclaiming it. Because the one who listens chooses when to speak, and the one who chooses when to speak doesn't panic about being seen. So try a real pause, not as a technique but as a stance. Let the other person finish. Look at their face, ask one simple question, allow silence without filling it with stories. You'll notice something uncomfortable. At first, silence itches. It unsettles you. That's the point. That's where you discover how much you depended on noise to feel present, and that's also where you can free yourself. When you learn to listen, your experience becomes genuinely useful, because advice arrives when it's requested, and words arrive when they're needed. Talking too much doesn't make you important. It makes you anxious. And old age doesn't need more anxiety. It needs more presence. People don't remember the one who spoke non-stop. They remember the one who made them feel understood. And that skill, if you practice it, brings you respect without having to ask for it. Sixth habit: becoming rigid and intolerant. When was the last time you changed your mind without feeling like you were losing authority? This habit shows up when you start confusing firmness with rigidity. Firmness is a trunk that supports. Rigidity is a dry trunk that snaps. And in old age, when the world moves faster than your patience, that rigidity turns ugly because it no longer sounds like principles. It sounds like bitterness. You hear it in short, final phrases. That's nonsense. It was better before. People are useless now. Back in my day. And every time you say it, you close a door. Not only to new ideas, but to people. Because nobody wants to talk with someone who's already decided that everything new is inferior. You think you're defending values. In reality, you're defending comfort. Learning a different way, a different language, a different perspective, makes you uncomfortable, so you attack it. The root is fear of feeling out of date. When you were younger, change excited you, or at least you tolerated it. With age, change wears you out. And because it wears you out, you interpret it as a threat. So you become the judge. You condemn what you don't understand, so you don't have to understand it. But that constant judgment traps you, makes you lonelier, and steals something essential for old age: mental flexibility. The cost isn't only social, it's internal. A rigid mind lives in tension, always fighting reality. And reality doesn't adjust itself to your temperament. Reality moves forward. If all you know how to do is resist, you live frustrated. And if you live frustrated, you become intolerant because every little thing irritates you. The young person talks differently. It bothers you. Rules change. It bothers you. Technology shows up. It bothers you. In the end, what bothers you isn't the world. It's that the world doesn't ask if you're ready. Stoicism isn't nostalgia. It's adapting with dignity. The Stoic doesn't fall in love with his opinion. He falls in love with the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius insisted on this. If someone shows you you're wrong, change with joy. Because changing doesn't humiliate you, it improves you. The real humiliation is getting trapped in an idea just so you don't have to admit time passed. So practice a simple, powerful discipline. Don't form an opinion so fast. Don't condemn so fast. Before you say, "That's garbage," ask, "What part am I not understanding?" That question gives you mental youth, even if your body no longer has it. And it also earns you respect. People respect someone who can talk without needing to crush others. True authority doesn't shout, it observes and decides. Being tolerant doesn't mean accepting everything. It means not letting your discomfort turn into aggression. You can keep principles without becoming a wall. You can have boundaries without becoming a punishment. Old age with character is the kind that grows wiser, not more closed off. Because wisdom doesn't harden you. Wisdom refines you. If you want to preserve relationships and peace, learn to drop a sentence that's killing you from the inside. I don't want to learn anymore. That sentence isn't age. That sentence is quitting. Seventh habit, clinging to the past as your identity. Have you noticed that sometimes you only feel like somebody when you talk about who you used to be? It's a quiet habit, living in memories, comparing, telling the same story over and over, not to share, but to prove you mattered more back then. When that happens, your present becomes an empty room you decorate with old photos. People listen out of respect, but inside they feel like you're not really here anymore. It becomes obvious in conversation. Every topic ends up back in your past. If someone talks about work, you bring up your era. If they talk about music, you bring up what was real. If they talk about hardship, you say, back then it was truly hard. And without realizing it, you turn your memory into a trench. You don't use it as learning, you use it as shelter. And shelter, over time, becomes a prison. The root is often unresolved grief. Grief for the strength that's gone, for the beauty that changed, for the speed you lost, for the social place that shrank. And because it hurts to face that grief, you look backward, where everything feels more controllable. The past doesn't argue with you. It doesn't demand anything. It doesn't test you. In the past, you already know who you were. In the present, you have to rebuild yourself, and that's frightening. The problem is that constant nostalgia is a form of escape. The world keeps moving. Your children grow up, your surroundings change, and you stay frozen in a version of yourself that no longer exists. That makes you bitter, because every day confirms it's not the same anymore. And of course it isn't. It doesn't have to be. But if your identity depends on repeating before, then your current life becomes a comparison that always loses. Stoicism puts a hand on your shoulder and tells you something hard. Don't live where you can't act. The past isn't under your control. You can't redo it. You can't go back. So why hand it your mind? Marcus Aurelius wrote to remind himself that each day is a complete life. Not a replay, not an epilogue. A real day with real decisions, even if they're small. The practice here is concrete. Turn the past into a tool, not an altar. If your past taught you discipline, use it today. If it taught you humility, use it today. If it taught you love, use it today. But stop using it as a fixed identity, because when you say, I was, you're burying I am. And as painful as it is to admit, the present can also be dignified if you work it with steadiness. And there's a delicate point. When you cling to the past, you also force others to live there with you. You turn them into an audience for a movie on repeat. That wears people out. It cools things down. Nobody wants to fight your nostalgia, but they also don't want to live trapped in it. If you want closeness, bring your life into the present. Ask questions. Learn. Participate. Even slowly. Old age shouldn't be a museum. A museum is beautiful, but it's still. You're still alive, and being alive means inner movement. The past can inspire you, but it can't govern you. Dignity isn't in what you were. It's in how you carry yourself today. Habit number 8. Invading your children's lives. Are you getting involved out of love or out of a need to control? Because this habit is one of the most common and one of the most destructive. You justify it with noble lines. I'm just worried. I just want to help. I just want them to do well. But many times what you're doing is stepping into a place that's no longer yours, turning concern into interference. That isn't care. That's intrusion. You see it in daily details. You give opinions no one asked for. You insert yourself into decisions about relationships, parenting, money, work. You criticize the house, the schedule, the way they raise their kids. You call to monitor, not to support. And when they don't listen, you get offended. That's where the truth shows. If it were only love, it wouldn't hurt so much when they choose differently. It would sting, yes, but you wouldn't become a judge. Offense appears when your help was really a way to command. The root is often fear of losing your place. Before, your role was central. You organized, you provided, you guided. Over time, that center shifts. Your children build their own world, and if you don't accept that transition, you try to stay in the center by force, even if it's through advice, criticism, or warnings. But the result is almost always the same: distance. Because nobody grows well under surveillance. The cost is double. On one side, your children close off. They tell you less. They hide things to avoid your judgment. They become careful around you, as if they're walking on glass. On the other side, you end up empty, because your life depends on what they do. When they're doing well, you're doing well. When they fail, you fall apart. That isn't a healthy bond. It's emotional dependence, and dependence sooner or later turns into resentment. Stoicism offers a firm way out. Each person is responsible for their own life. You can love without possessing. You can be available without intruding. Epictetus taught it bluntly. What you love, don't control it, understand it as something on loan. Your children aren't an extension of your ego. They are whole people. If you respect them, you win them. If you squeeze them, you lose them. So change the gesture. Instead of advising, ask. Instead of criticizing, listen. Instead of imposing, offer. If you want, I can share my opinion. That sentence seems simple, but it's a revolution, because it gives the other person their autonomy back. And when someone feels autonomous, they come closer by choice, not by obligation. You also need to look at your own life, because many intrusions come from a personal emptiness, too much time without purpose, too much identity tied to being a father or being a mother, too little built around a self of your own. And here's the hard part. If you don't build a life that's yours, you'll try to live theirs. Not out of malice, but out of hunger for meaning. A dignified old age supports. It doesn't control. And real love doesn't need to hover to exist. Sometimes the greatest act of care is learning to be quiet and to trust. Because when you respect space, the other person comes back. And when you invade, the other person runs, even if they love you. 9. Wasting money out of anxiety. At this age, you're not buying things. You're buying a moment of calm. And if you don't see it, you become easy to push around. An ad promises relief. A salesperson promises a solution. A relative suggests, take advantage of it. And you feel that strange urgency to spend, as if spending would give you control back. This isn't about being rich or poor, it's about impulse. Because when money is used to cover anxiety, it's never enough, even if you have more. It's a habit disguised as small decisions. You buy just in case, pay for services you don't use, accept credit with a smile, give too much to feel loved, or treat yourself to things you don't fully enjoy because they're mixed with guilt. It also happens in reverse. You become obsessive, vigilant, controlling, and still make ridiculous purchases out of fear of losing. The pattern isn't the object. The pattern is the emotion. You're not managing money. You're managing insecurity. There's an uncomfortable truth behind this. Many times you don't need what you're buying. You need to feel that you still can, that you still decide, that you still have power. And the market knows it. It pushes the idea that if you don't buy now, you lose, you fall behind, you become irrelevant. And to avoid that symbolic loss, you hand over money like water leaking through a crack. Then you're left with the receipt and the silence. And silence can't be paid for with a card. The inner mechanism is simple. Anxiety speeds you up and makes you short-sighted. It makes you believe relief is outside you, in the immediate, the new, the quick fix. And as you age, anxiety gets more cunning because it comes loaded with other fears. Fear of dependence, fear of getting sick, fear of being a burden, fear of ending up alone. So you buy like someone adding padlocks, and padlocks can give you a sense of security, but they don't give you peace. Peace is something else. And you know it. Here, the Stoic shift is sober. You control your judgment, you don't control the future. Seneca spoke of desire as a well that never fills. The more you pour into it, the more it demands. Money in the hands of an anxious mind becomes fuel for restlessness. But money in the hands of a clear mind becomes a tool. You don't need complicated financial lessons. You need to learn to stop the impulse, because impulse is the quiet thief of your dignity. Before you spend, stop and ask yourself one thing. No drama. Does this solve a real problem, or does it only calm an emotion for 10 minutes? You don't have to become stingy or live in fear. You just have to take the wheel back. Because every impulsive purchase is an inner conversation where you told yourself, I can't tolerate this discomfort. And you can. You can breathe, wait, ask for advice, sleep on the decision, and come back with a cool head. That's character, not restriction. If you don't govern your anxiety, someone else will govern your money. And when someone else governs your money, they also govern your peace of mind. Old age doesn't impoverish you as much as hurry does. Your peace can't be bought. It has to be defended. 10. Abandoning your body out of resignation. There's a point where you stop saying, it hurts, and start saying, what's the point anymore? And that phrase is dangerous because it doesn't describe your age. It describes your surrender. Abandoning your body isn't just quitting exercise. It's stopping your self-care with the excuse that it's no longer worth it. It's accepting clumsiness, weakness, and discomfort as if they were an unchangeable fate. And when you do that, you become a spectator of your own decline. The metaphor is simple and harsh. It's like having an old car that still has road left, but you decide not to change the oil because it's old anyway. Of course it breaks down faster. The same happens to you. You stop walking, stretching, strengthening, hydrating properly, eating with attention. You sit for more hours. You move less. And every week that passes, your body learns a lesson, that you don't need it anymore. Then you're surprised it doesn't respond when you call on it. The common belief that traps you is this: at this age you can't improve. It's a comfortable lie. Not because you can go back to 30, but because you can always regain something. Mobility, strength, stability, sleep, mood. The problem is that improvement requires patience, and resignation offers a quick exit, not trying. And the sad part is that many times you're not tired of training, you're tired of feeling clumsy. So you avoid moving so you don't have to face that you've changed. That avoidance costs you more than the effort ever would. The inner wear of this surrender is quiet. You become more dependent, then you get angry about that dependence. It hurts to ask for help, but you need it more. You hate feeling slow, yet you keep choosing what makes you slower. And day after day, your mind gets used to a posture. I can't anymore. That posture becomes an identity. The body isn't what limits you first. It's your interpretation of what the body means. That's where defeat begins. The Stoic shift is returning to the minimum duty you owe yourself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the body is an instrument of reason, and that neglecting the instrument is neglecting your ability to live with order. This isn't about aesthetics. It's about function and dignity. Caring for your body isn't obsession. It's respect for the tool that still lets you think, choose, go out, see the people you love, hold yourself up without falling. Resignation, on the other hand, steals your future little by little, then presents it to you as natural. Lower the intensity and return to the basics. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a steady gesture, a daily walk, a bit of strength work with your own body weight, gentle mobility, less sugar, more water, more sleep, fewer excuses. Not as punishment, but as a statement, I'm still here, because the body responds to how it's treated, and so does your mind. Every small act of care is a message you send without words. Abandoning your body is abandoning your freedom, and at your age, freedom is gold. Nobody ages well by luck. You age well through accumulated decisions. 11. Losing dignity out of fear of being alone. This is the most painful habit because it comes from a real need, wanting company. But when you don't face your fear of loneliness, it pushes you to lower yourself. It makes you tolerate disrespect, chase crumbs, insist where you're not wanted, accept small humiliations just so you don't feel the emptiness. And in old age, that pattern looks ugly not because you lack love, but because you lack boundaries. The image is clear. It's like leaving your front door open so anyone can walk in, just so you don't have to hear the silence. People come in who use you, manipulate you, visit you for their own interest, talk down to you, treat you like a child. And you allow it because silence scares you more than disrespect does. So you trade dignity for presence. But that presence doesn't truly keep you company. It just takes up space. And you feel it, even if you try to deny it. The belief that holds this up is old and dangerous. Better bad company than no company. That phrase ruins lives. because it teaches you to bargain away your worth to buy closeness. And when you do it repeatedly, you train others to treat you like someone negotiable. You start laughing at what hurts you, swallowing what bothers you, accepting cruel jokes, tolerating shouting, apologizing for existing. Then you wonder why relationships feel heavy. They feel heavy because they aren't relationships, they're fear-based transactions. The inner cost is devastating, and it doesn't always show from the outside. You lose respect for yourself. You start feeling shame, even if you never name it. You become dependent on the phone, the message, the visit, the reply. Any delay throws you off, any distance you interpret as abandonment. And that anxiety makes you more vulnerable because it makes you act from urgency. Urgency in affection is the shortest road to humiliation. What you're asking for isn't love, it's rescue. Here, the Stoic turn is radical. Your worth doesn't depend on company, it depends on your stance. Epictetus would say it without sweetness: if you hand over your peace so someone will stay, you've already lost yourself. Solitude isn't an enemy, it's a space that reveals whether you can stand yourself. And if you can't stand yourself, no one else can fill you without you paying a price. The Stoic learns to be with himself without desperation because he understands that dignity is the first relationship, the one that holds up all the others. So change the question. Instead of, how do I keep people from leaving me, ask, what am I accepting out of fear? Then ask another, if I were watching myself from the outside, would I respect me? Not to punish yourself, but to wake up. Because you can build healthy company, but it starts when you decide your presence isn't begged for, it's offered. The one who deserves it receives it, the one who doesn't stays outside without drama. Solitude hurts, yes, but indignity corrodes. And what corrodes ends up slowly killing the soul. If you're going to choose a pain, choose the one that strengthens you, not the one that degrades you. You've seen 11 habits that turn ugly with the years, not because old age is ugly, but because old age reveals what you've been quietly practicing all along. There's no makeup for character when the body gets tired and time gets short. What remains is your stance, how you speak, how you choose, how you care for yourself, how you set boundaries, and how you face reality without inventing excuses. Old age isn't the end of your dignity. It's the final exam of your dignity. If you make these adjustments, you won't become someone else. You'll come back to yourself. You'll feel less inattention, less need to argue, less hunger for approval, and more calm to choose what serves you. That's the real change. A quiet transformation. Not a spectacle, just the sense that inside you're walking with your back straight again, even if the world stays the same. Because when you change your posture, your decisions change. And when your decisions change, your life changes. Now the question is direct and needs no decoration. Are you going to keep justifying habits that cost you respect, or are you going to take the control you still have? No one can live for you. No one can organize your mind for you. You can blame age, family, the past, the body, the modern world. Or you can accept the only thing that truly belongs to you, your response, and that response even today can be firmer than you think. Dignity isn't a speech. It's a practice. You see it in the small things, in the everyday, in what you do when no one applauds you. You see it when you take care of yourself even when you don't feel like it, when you stay quiet even though you could hurt, when you release control even though it scares you, when you choose truth even though it makes you uncomfortable. Dignity isn't a goal. It's the ground. If you lose the ground, everything becomes unstable. If this content brought you value and helped you look at your habits more clearly, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And I want to read you in the comments. Write the phrase, "I'm a Stoic," along with the name of the country you're listening from, because I love knowing what parts of the world this community of Stoic men and women is growing from, more serious every day. I'm Gabriel, and this is the Stoic Garden. And now, as we wrap up, 2 recommended videos will appear on screen so you can keep going deeper into this discipline of character and calm. Pick one, continue, and keep one firm idea in mind. Age doesn't take away your power. It simply demands that you use it with more clarity.